Hi, welcome back to the 1 in 20 show. Today I'm joined by Ethan Daniel Corbett. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. We got so much to get into, and I know this is kind of a theme with your life right now with how much you got going on. And returning from New York in February, you just kind of told me a little bit about that, but I wondered if you wanted to go into kind of your journey over the last year as it's almost at a close.
Yeah. A year ago today, I was living in New York. I just moved there. I moved there August 27th of 2017. So I had just been there maybe 3 weeks. I was living with two of my really good friends, having a blast pursuing acting, theater. I got an agent within like a month of being there, and things seemed to be going in the right direction. And then I did a Hennessy commercial. Life is great. I was living the dream, you know. And then I had this like weird instinct. I was like, I feel like I need to go back to LA. For some reason, I had this, like, me and my roommate Brandon, we were talking about it. We're just like, I don't know if this is where I'm supposed to be. Because I moved to New York thinking that, because I always wanted to, and I finally had the chance to do so. And I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to see auditions in LA and see what's up. So I applied to a few auditions and whatever. I go back to visit LA in New York for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Yeah. And I auditioned for two things. I auditioned for a movie and I auditioned for a play. The movie being JUBA, and then the play being The Legend of Bonnie Ann. And then I go back to New York, not thinking anything of it, just relaxing. And then in January, I heard that I booked both. Wow. So then I had to fly back to LA in February to shoot JUBA. And then I wasn't doing Legend of Bonnie Ann until like March or May, maybe.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I guess I'll stay out here for a little bit, but I don't know. And then I ended up, and then I was like, well, I'm out here, I'll audition some more. Why not? And then I auditioned for West Side Story. And then I did that for like 3 months. And then
at Glendale Center.
At Glendale Center Theater, yeah. And then directly after West Side Story, did Legend of Bonnie Ann. And then directly after that, I did this show called Find Your Light. And then directly after that, I booked Blood Rock, what I'm doing right now. So
wow,
I just kind of got stuck here all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's almost like you're meant. It's almost like you're meant to be here, maybe.
Yeah. I just had that weird feeling in New York. I was like, something's pulling me back to LA. And at first, I thought I was just being homesick. And then I felt like it was kind of like a answer from the universe that I got JUBA and I got Legend of Bonnie Ann, and then I was like, I guess this is what's going on.
Yeah, and I guess in a weird way, you know, you'd spent 25 years of your life in LA.
Yeah.
Which, you know, like you said, you wondered if it could be homesickness, whatever. But at the same time, it's like your roots are here. You learned how to act. You learned how to sing. You learned how to dance and do all that stuff here. What is the importance of LA to you now that you're back? Like, you've gotten some perspective and you're here to work, no doubt.
I'm here to work.
But what is it like for you to be back in this environment again? What's the difference between New York? What do you like better?
I mean, the first thing that I really like is that I'm able to just sit in my car and drive on my own time. I don't have to wait on a train, because in New York, the trains like are great, but almost never on time. They're usually crowded, uncomfortable. It took me 30 to 40 minutes every day just to go to the gym. And I mean, that's one of my daily routines that I really appreciated out here in LA. So something just as simple as that, like really got under my skin. So when I came back to LA, I appreciated so much more. Now traffic doesn't bother me. I'm like, I'd rather just be in my own space, listening to whatever I want or singing. And
Yeah. What a thought.
yeah, I was like, now traffic, I'm like, oh, whatever. At least it's not the subway that's every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Wow.
yeah. So
Awesome. No, that's cool. I think something we talk about on the show a lot, and something I keep hearing even from my friends, Noah Azuna, and some friends who are my age that ended up going off to New York, and he's in year 3 now, which is crazy. So am I, but I'm local. But still, it is weird to think that going away from a place, from a period of time. For me, I went abroad to Italy last summer.
Oh, sweet.
And that was a real perspective change for me, because even though it was only for 6 weeks, I got to get away from my environment here. 3,000 miles away, probably.
Yeah, probably more. I think.
More than that, I think. Yeah. And just be there and be away from family for the first time. You know, being a local going to college here was different because, I didn't leave right away. But after the first year, being there for that summer was a good perspective change.
Where'd you go in Italy?
I was in Florence, based out of Tuscany for the first couple weeks, and then went to Florence, then Rome, then back to Florence, and I think we went to Cinque Terre and Pisa. We kind of hit the whole thing. And Venice.
Right.
We got to go to Venice.
Okay, cool.
But for me, it grew me, because I was like,
Definitely.
wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I could be a confident version of myself somewhere else than home.
Yeah. I definitely, I did a lot of traveling in my life. I've been all over Europe and like Canada, Mexico, everywhere. And I felt the same way. When I experienced a different culture than my own, than what I was used to, it opened my mind and my eyes to other ways of life. And I think it helps me as an artist, to be able to quite literally put yourself in other people's shoes. So, yeah.
Would you say that in other people's shoes is just a different version of yourself? Is that what you kind of mean by that?
Yeah. And then I can apply that to my roles. Is each role is not like a completely different person from me. It's me as if I was in those certain like circumstances. Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. Yeah. And a big thing I think is getting perspective. I keep talking to people like Barry Kemper, and Renee Urbanovich was on here. And so we chatted, I'm starting to chat with some adults on the show as well. And you hear it from everybody. You get some perspective by getting out of your comfort zone and enjoying the life around you. And for me, this is an expression of that, because normally I'm used to film or theater, and so this is a totally new thing. But like I was telling you, it's been good for me to expand my horizons.
Right.
And I know you kind of had a previous background in theater more, so I wanted to ask you specifically, how did the shorts, and I can't remember if it was a short or a full length.
Juba is a short, but they're planning on making it a full feature. Eventually. Yeah.
And then Blood is a short.
Blood is a short. Yeah.
How did those two play into that? How did they kind of expand your horizons as an actor? Because I know the role in Blood is definitely a lot more edgy and different than you are right now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As a person.
Well, yeah. You'll be surprised if you take a look at all my roles and over my career. I always play villains, and I'm totally not like that in real life. And to be honest, I've played a neo-Nazi or a skinhead probably like 5 or 6 times. My very first movie I ever did was called Spit, and it was about neo-Nazis, kind of based off of Canyon Country out here. And that was my first full feature film, and I played a skinhead in that. And then, so I was kind of familiar with that life because I had to do research for it when I did that film. So when Blood came around and I was playing the main villain, it was a perfect fit, because around the time when we were filming, it was when, all these shootings were happening, like acts of racism and violence and stuff were happening. So I felt like it was an important story to tell. Because if you watch the whole thing, I don't want to. I don't think
you can share a little bit. This is Blood that you're speaking.
This
to,
is Blood,
right?
yeah. I don't want to give too much away, but I mean, one of the characters, he gets his mind opened when when someone of a different color saves his life. So that's what kind of the driving force of the whole movie. And I felt like that was a very important story to tell. And then Juba is also another important story to tell. It's a true story about this Iraqi sniper. Have you seen the movie American Sniper? It's literally the same story, but told from the Iraqi point of view.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah. So,
awesome.
Because in Iraq, there's like different groups. There's, the actual Iraqi people, and then there's the terrorists, and then there's the U.S., So the U.S. is going in there, to get rid of the terrorists, and, the Iraqi people, like the director that I was talking with him the other day, he was the interpreter for the American Sniper. Like when they were interrogating Juba, he was there. He was
wow.
So he and he was just saying how, from their perspective, how they felt about America coming in, like killing their people, even though they were also killing terrorists. There was also, innocent lives that were being taken. So Juba, he was part of this rebel resistance he was going after both Americans and terrorists. And then somewhere in this film, you'll see that he kind of realized the Americans were kind of there to help. They were more good than they were bad. It was a very gray area. And it shows that war it's not black and white. It's very gray, and you don't know, whoever the bad guy is really just perspective because we're all human. We all have our own lives. So it's all really depending on where you come from. Yeah.
Wow. So, powerful. And I was just thinking, having the director be in that position tells a very real story. People, it's Chris Kyle's the name of the guy?
Yeah. Chris Kyle. Yeah.
People relate with his story, right? Like you were saying, because, we're American, and that is so built around a war hero, and he was. Yeah. But it is cool to see that other side and tell a very real story. I'm sure that film does. I didn't get to watch it back, but I know that with that powerful of a message and somebody who's been there to receive it firsthand, as an artist, I'm sure he wanted to relay that in its truth to the audience, no doubt.
Yeah, he definitely just really wanted to get that story out there, that he wanted to tell the story that they are people too, with their own ways of life.
Absolutely.
That it's in war is, crazy thing. Yeah.
Wow. And that's cool because for you as an actor, you've been playing roles that are very meaningful. One, or two, can be very, I'm sure, this is a question I might actually be developing as I'm speaking in.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, for you as an actor, playing these maybe tormented people or being in a tormented story,
right? For
you as a person, how has being in a role like this helped you individually? Have you ever struggled with, because we chat about mental awareness on the show as well, suicide prevention centers and like the Trevor Project. Zach Kemper shared with me about that.
Right.
Did you feel like those roles had a unique part in your growth as an individual?
Definitely. It definitely made me realize that there are people like this in the world, like my character Nico in Blood. There are people out there that believe that, and it made me have more sympathy for people of different colors and different races, just because I was born with the genetic lottery. I was born a man and white and in a well-off family. So I'm very lucky. So it definitely made me realize that, again, that everyone has their own life. Everyone is human. Everyone comes from... There's a certain word. I think there's a certain word that it's when you have that appraisal of when you realize that there's other people having their own lives. I have to think about it. I don't know what it is, but
It sounds very deep.
it's really deep.
I'm sure it was
really
fitting.
deep.
Sure, it was fitting for the moment.
I don't know. I wish I could remember it,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
then I
yeah.
can sound smart, but it's okay.
That's all right. I think your
Yeah.
definition of it probably made more sense to people who wouldn't have known the word anyway.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I was going to ask you too. It's funny you just brought up a point that I'm interested in. I come from a similar background where I, born into privilege, and I think a lot of people who watch the show are the same way. Anybody who can really access YouTube, even though it is now worldwide, still, if you have a computer or a device, you're able to do that. How has growing up in that, how have you trained yourself to get perspective? Because we chat a lot about that. Like you need to go through the hard things in life to realize that you've really been privileged in ways.
Yeah.
For you as maybe an actor and a person, how have you learned through that?
I feel like I have learned, basically, I have gone through hardships, that many people can relate to. And I think that me going through that is what's helped me. And I think being an actor makes you vulnerable, just kind of living in it. And and when you're vulnerable, then you become more empathetic to other people. Like, I feel like my friends who are mostly actors, they're the most caring and most empathetic people I've ever met, which I am really thankful for. So I think that's what happened with me. And I feel like I used to not always be like this, but with age and experience and realizing that life is crappy, I've realized that everyone deserves love or affection, so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And that's kind of a perfect segue, because I was just going to kind of talk about musical theater, and I know theater in general, but musical theater, I think, is something that we probably both relate in that way, in so many ways. For me, it changed my life. And we talk about empathy a lot, like you mentioned, with people, and I don't think there's been a guest so far that hasn't used that word once. And I think it's because they're artists, like you said. Everybody understands that people need to be heard. And through our mediums of film and acting and theater, we're able to express that in a new way that people in the audience can, can receive. Which is so interesting. But I wanted to ask you, kind of through your time, being cast as Riff, West Side Story, no small role and no small feat. That show is one of the most difficult and challenging shows for choreography and singing and music. I wanted to ask you kind of, how much has musical theater been a part of your life, one, and two, how much did that role mean to you? Because that's kind of a big staple role, and that's a equity show, and it was, correct? It was equity? Yeah. That's like a whole new world that takes your musical theater acting experience from a kid and brings it to a semi-professional, professional light. You're getting paid. It's professional.
Yeah. Well, for me, musical theater is everything to me. It's, I got my first taste of musical theater at Escape Theater. And it was my first show. Well, I did it in elementary school. I went to Santa Clarita Christian School growing up. And I think my very first show I ever did was The Tale of the Three Trees, and I played this character named Bud, and he was like, the tall, brooding tree, and
typecast.
Typecast. Yeah, that was that just shows my whole rest of my career right there. Like that, I always play characters like that.
That's funny.
But my first like real experience with like a big production was Escape Theater, and we were doing Peter Pan, and I played Noodler, and I had like maybe 3 lines, but after doing that, I was completely hooked. I was already into acting because my dad was in the industry growing up. So I was already kind of like interested. But then the moment I did it, I was hooked. And quite literally. Quite literally. I don't know. I was just thinking about that. I was like, okay. And now I've done Peter Pan 3 times now. So that was my very first show. Mm-hmm. Then my very last show was Escape, was Peter Pan, and I played Captain Hook. And then I just did Peter Pan again, maybe almost 2 years ago. Almost 2 years ago, I think I did it. Maybe a year and a half. Mm-hmm. Year and a half ago, I did it at 5 Star Theatricals, another theater out here. And I played Starkey, and I was understudy for Hook. But musical theater literally is my life. And Riff, to talk about that is a dream role of mine. Really is. In high school, are you familiar with D-Task?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So back in high school, senior year, it was me, Steven Schmidt, Christian Guerrero. I don't know if you interviewed anyone else that was in it, but it was all of us together. And Steven Schmidt was Tony. Christian Guerrero was Bernardo, and I was Riff. And we did D-Task. And for people that don't know what D-Task is, it's a theater competition that they have a category that's a musical category where you perform a musical in under 8 minutes, all a cappella, and you're only allowed 4 chairs, and that's it.
Yeah, no music, and it's all it's the entire southern section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So that was my first taste of West Side Story, really. I kind of knew it, but then when we got into it, it was everything. And we would rehearse late and day and night, and just that was everything to us. So then the competition comes around. We move on to semifinals. Then we move on to finals. And then we find out we won first place.
Wow.
And then we performed it in front of like 5,000 people.
Yeah, it's no small feat. D-Task is serious. I mean, in our school's place out here, this can be a pride moment because I'm very proud of the Valley. But Santa Clarita schools in the last couple of years have placed out of the top 5. Some of the years we've placed 4 schools out of 5.
Yeah.
Valencia, Saugus, Canyon, and I think even Golden Valley snuck in the mix last couple of years. Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's something about Santa Clarita that breeds like artists and
something
talent.
In the water.
It's
like
something,
you said.
Literally something in the water. But that was my first taste of West Side Story, and after that, I was in love with Riff, and I was like, I'm going to play this one day. So when the opportunity arose, I just moved back from New York. And I just finished JUBA. I had a month where I didn't do anything. I was going stir crazy. One of my friends, Marissa, she was in it. And she messaged me. And she said, hey, we're still looking for a Riff. We need you to come audition. And I was like, okay, I'll do it.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm already kind of familiar with the role. I'd love to do it.
Yeah.
And I audition. Then few days later, all of a sudden, they told me I was cast. And then we rehearsed for a week, did tech for a week, and then we opened. I had to learn that whole show in 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
That was the craziest experience of my life, probably doing theater, I would say. Just because, and it's a dream role of mine to play. Because I feel like it's so powerful. It also is a very needed show because it has to do with racism and everything that comes with it.
Right, and may I argue even probably the most legendary, meaningful show of the last 50 years, if you consider the elements in there, the gang, the gang activity, in the sense that you did have two differing sides, but it had to do with racism, like we've talked about earlier, as well as how that eventually, Sondheim and his work with who did it with him? Was it Gershwin? Who did that with him?
Oh, for West Side Story?
Yeah, who wrote the music? Bernstein. I'm going to sound like an idiot on the air, but
don't worry about it.
Then Lin Miranda ended up going and starting that generation, I think now, because he was so impacted by Sondheim when Sondheim asked him to come write the Spanish lyrics. I think that is what sparked him on to do In the Heights and Hamilton. I mean, he did it after In the Heights, so it would have been right before Hamilton.
Yeah.
But we've talked about that with Christian, because Christian's a huge fan. Huge Miranda fan.
Well, he's also of Latin descent, so he also has a lot to relate to Lin.
Yeah, but like you said, it's so meaningful and it's exciting. Me and my brother were talking about it the other day, that theater's starting to come back to the mainstream again, which is exciting.
I was just talking about this the other day too.
How cool.
Like, I was just talking about how theater, like especially with the release of Hamilton, everyone loves it. Everyone. I used to work at a karaoke bar, and when Hamilton came out, everyone would sing only Hamilton songs. It would happen, and like it was just random people, like dudes that just came from a frat party would come in and sing Hamilton. Like, you never hear about that. You never.
No, because there's nothing. This isn't mean to be any slant at all. But there's nothing feminine about the musical for a guy. There's nothing. You know what I mean? It crosses all borders and horizons because it's so accessible now. And what a blessing to be in an environment where there is accessible music and things that we can consume. Your short films are not on a reel that has to be played at the theater. They're on the internet that everybody can see.
Exactly.
How is that how does that like played into your growth as, because I think people can blow up faster.
Yeah, definitely the internet
get recognized.
Helped. Basically how I started growing on social media was it was back when I was doing a soap opera called Youthful Days, and we had one episode that had Scott Disick in it. And when that episode aired, all of a sudden I gained like 8,000 followers. I was like, what the heck? Because I happened to be in the same episode as someone that has like millions of followers. So it's crazy how social media plays into that.
Yeah, but we also talk about, before we glorify that too much, I also chat about in the same way how that could be detrimental to people's growth. So I don't want people to be confused by saying that it's always great, because it can be, rough. It can be rough for people who, Renee Urbanovich said something about how, what did she say? She said that people who have a sudden influx of growth on social media based on the 13-year-olds that are under the covers at night following people are the ones who don't really know what they stand for yet, right? If they're really young, it's hard for them to know. And two, that means you leave the entire importance of somebody's career in the hands of the youth. Yeah. And that to me is so fascinating, because it shouldn't define somebody's career, but inevitably it will.
But people put so much value on social media, which is kind of weird. Like, I hate social media. Yeah. I have fun. Like, I post stupid stuff all the time. Like, today I posted, like, stupid stuff. Yeah. But I was never really, like, I mean, I used to care a lot. But I found that the less I cared about it, just the more happy I was. And the more like focused I was to be able to do on other things. So
it all plays into perspective again. It seems like that's kind of a theme that we've been chatting about on and off. I really wanted to go into, where was I going to go into with this? I feel like we're already covering a lot of the bases that I was hoping to cover, which is exciting. I want to go into kind of your time at Fullerton, because I know you did go to Cal State Fullerton. I do want to talk about that. Yeah. And I know you didn't get to graduate.
It's an interesting story.
Because of the gig that you got.
Was it? Well, there's multiple reasons, which kind of ties into what we talked about earlier.
Then let's get into it.
Yeah. I'm gonna use the restroom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fine.
Yeah.
We'll go to a break. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. We're on the topic now of Cal State Fullerton. I wanted to kind of chat with you about that kind of funny duality that I'm sure it was good for you, but at the same time you had to move on to new things.
I had to move on, yeah.
So
I don't even know where to begin, really. Cal State Fullerton, one of the top schools in the nation for musical theater. Tons of Broadway stars have come from there. Mm-hmm. I wanted to go there because I remember when I was looking for schools, I didn't want to go to a school that had an ego. So I was doing my research, and then I found Cal State Fullerton, and I found this article about them, and they're like the number 6 school in the nation for theater. And I was like, what? I had no idea that they were just in our backyard, basically.
Yeah.
So I applied, I auditioned to get in, and then I got in. It's a cut program. It starts out with 200 people, and then at the end of your sophomore year, it goes down to 12. So I made it all the way through, made it into the BFA class.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm the type of person that strives under pressure. The more pressure that I have, then the harder I work. Because when things are too easy, then I get lazy. So I think that kind of program was perfect for me. So I was in the program, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about how doing like meaningful theater. And I got some really good training from Fullerton. I will never forget my acting teachers, the dancing that I got, the singing, all the training that I got was great. But there were certain parts of the program that was trying to form me into this cookie cutter kind of musical theater performer, which I was not into at all. Because coming from Valencia, when all we did was meaningful things. We did Mad World and West Side Story. We were doing theater that touched people or changed people's lives.
Thanks to Waylon, because he heads that up, and Nancy, and
because Waylon is amazing. He literally pushes us in the direction and pushes us to break the norm, to not be cookie cutter artists.
Because he's been around the bend, right?
Yeah.
He understands that he doesn't want everybody to go out and be...
Yeah.
Because I think there is a way to... I think I know what you're getting at, because there definitely is a way to audition. You know what I mean? To become an auditionable actor that can get into those schools or get into those gigs. But how are you going to fill... I don't mean to go on a rant, but how do you fill a role in society, a new role in society, if you just do the same thing? Is that kind of... Do you know what I mean? As everybody else.
Right, exactly. I... near the end of my training there, they started doing, they're basically trying to make us, we would be working actors, but we would be doing, cruise ships or like ensemble, like it's a bunch of step touch singing with like a microphone kind of stuff. I would make a lot of money. I would work a lot, but it's not what I wanted to do. While I was there, I filmed my first movie, Spit, and that was very meaningful to me. And while I was there, when I was a freshman, I wrote an email to the head of the program, and I said, can we stop doing these shows that are just campy and...
Wow, good for you.
I know, I wrote this whole article,
Wow.
And I sent them a whole list of shows that we should do. And they ended up doing it after I left. But...
It takes a while.
They ended up doing like 3 of the shows that I suggested.
Wow.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen you must have shook the ground somehow to be able to...
The thing is like, I think the faculty, they liked me, but they also hated me at the same time, because I always was like, no, like, we're not doing that. So I got turned off near the end of my time there. So then when the opportunity arose to leave, I took it. I got this job working on New Full Days. I was going to make money. It was a TV show that I was excited about. And it worked for a while, and then eventually, like, the show didn't work out, but I was fine with it. I got so much experience, and I was able to move on from other things. And I got the training that I wanted from Fullerton, so I have, like, most of the same training as my other friends that have graduated from there. So, yeah, I was happy from what I decided, because everyone has their own path, and people need to remember that not two paths are exactly the same.
Right.
I have friends that instantly out of college, like one of my friends is in Hamilton right now, and he's in the first national tour.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, so right out of college, basically maybe a year or two after he graduated, he got Hamilton. So, and then I have other friends that are older, and just now are getting, like, picked up, because I feel like everyone has to grow into their type. Some people, their types are, like, their types are who they are right now when they get out. Like, I found out that I had to grow into my type, because I used to be this, like, little scrawny skinny dude, and then I realized that my voice and the way that I acted was not the way that I looked. So I was like, okay, I believe that if you don't like the story that your life is telling, you have every right to change it. So I remember I was like, I'm gonna start working out, start getting bigger, I'm gonna fit my voice, I'm gonna fit the way that I act, and then all of a sudden it all started falling into place, and I started booking. So
good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. I was going to ask you briefly too, do you see any, it's sounding like no, but do you see any disadvantage from not having your degree? I think this is more a question for the audience.
I think the only disadvantage is if you think you can do anything else other than acting. That's the only disadvantage, because you don't have to have a degree to be an actor. I would say you have to have training, because there's so many people out here that think that they can just do it and wing it. But you have to have the training. And something about training is it kind of breaks you down. It does. It makes you question everything you are as an artist. I remember in college, I would be, like, crying because I felt like I was not talented. I felt like I wasn't good enough. But in a way, over time, I learned that they break you down to build you back up, because you train, and then the moment you realize that you can just let go, the moment you realize you all that training you have, you can just throw away, and it's there for when you need it, and then you just perform. Because I was looking at old videos of me in Escape, and I was like, wow, I was fearless. I didn't have any training, but I was fearless in my roles. And I feel like you have to go back to that after you have your training. Then you go back to that fearlessness and being able to be let go.
Right.
And then everything comes into place. One of my acting mentors described it perfectly. When you're going in for a role, you think of a role as if it's a road trip, and you have to prepare for that road trip, right? So you have a bag, and say this bag has an unlimited amount of space in it. So you put clothes in it, food, money, whatever you would need for a road trip, right? Gas, anything. But then you even put in things that you might not ever need, like a cocktail dress. When are you ever going to need a cocktail dress on a road trip, right? You don't know. But what if you do need it? So when you're preparing for a role, you prepare everything. You over prepare. You write it out. Do any kind of pathway that you can go on when you do a scene or something like that. And then once you prepare all of that, then you close the bag, put it away, and then when you're on stage or when you're filming a scene, you never know when you're going to need it, but if you do need it, it's there. You just pull out that cocktail dress, put it on, and you're ready. So you're ready for anything that happens on stage. So I always took that into account, and that's literally the main thing that I took from Fullerton, that you have to put in the work and then learn to let go.
Awesome. Well, great advice. I've loved chatting with you a lot, because I think it's going to be good for the people to hear.
Yeah.
As well as it's good for me, because as I keep saying, like, every person that I have on, I learn from them. And that's the exciting thing. As much as it is exciting to have you on the show, it's also great to learn from you as an artist. If you wanted to give, because I know you're going to be performing a piece from Blood Rock, which is going to be at the Odyssey Theater, which is exciting, really exciting. It's an original. Will you give like a little 3-minute preview of the show / when it is and all of that, and what song you're going to perform, and then we'll get into that.
So Blood Rock the musical, it's a brand new musical. This is like the workshop version of it. We're performing at the Odyssey in LA. It is off of Sepulveda, next to the 405 near Culver City-ish, and it's a comedy about vampires in Philadelphia. I play the main villain in it, and the song that I chose to sing today is basically his finale song. It's his last hurrah. Cool. It's very powerful, and it really shows off like the power and the catchiness of these songs. So
that's awesome. It's really great. Well, catch Ethan in Blood Rock and in a lot of things. You can find, I'm going to put some of the links to the things that he's done below that we talked about, JUBA and BLOOD, and different things, and keep an eye out for him. He's going to be out and about, I'm sure, in LA and doing on different projects. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at 1 and 20 Show. Thanks for being a part of what we're doing. We're really excited for the growth of the show, and it's definitely expanding a lot, which is exciting. Every episode is better and better, and we're so thankful that you guys are just following along with us and watching this journey. So we'll be right back. Ethan's going to perform, and we'll wrap up the show from there.
Hey guys, welcome back. This is Smiling on the Outside from Blood Rock the musical. You only see these eyes, they're always so bright and shiny. You don't know what's inside, unbearably wearing at me. Lonely I've been so long, still I just put on a smile. Every muscle in my face must be in denial, 'cause all that you see is a big mug on me, a grin that seems a mile wide. Soon you'll agree when you look in my heart, I'm only smiling on the outside. Closely you'll see a crease, a dimple and another dimple. But please remain advised, it's really never that simple. You'll see me laughing awry, I'm just the life of the party. But under that merry mirth, a sorrow the size of an army. 'Cause all that you see is a big mug on me, a grin that seems a mile wide. Soon you'll agree when you look in my heart, I'm only smiling on the outside. Under the skin there's a darkness within, oh, it's like a flash flood erupting with pure blood. Strikes like an earthquake, but never a mistake. I'm trapped in this deep well, I'm trapped in my own hell, a thirst that can never be quenched. 'Cause all that you see is a big mug on me, a grin that seems a mile wide. Soon you'll agree when you look in my heart, I'm only smiling on the outside. 'Cause all that you see is a big mug on me, a grin that seems a mile wide. Soon you'll agree when you look in my heart, I'm only smiling, smiling outside.
There you go. I don't know how to respond to that. This has been the 1 in 20 show. Thank you for watching. Follow Ethan Daniel Corbett. Is that
Yeah,
right?
Ethan Daniel Corbett on Instagram.
Yep. Follow along, and we've got a lot of fun stuff coming your way. That was a great little piece.
Thank
you
you
for that. And we'll see you soon, guys.
Yeah.